Here's a typical question to test your knowledge, or that they'll use to test your understanding of deviations from the mean. You're going to be presented with a set of data. Typically, just a small set of data. We've got a few values, 2, and a 3, and a 2, and a 7. And then I have another column, so this is my x column. These are my scores. And then I've got another column that gives my deviations. And those are calculated as x minus the mean. Now, in this particular example, we're not given the mean. Instead, we're just given the actual deviations. So I'm going to show those here. We've got, with the 2, again, this is given information. You haven't worked this out yourself. So this is a negative 1.5 is the deviation that goes with the 2. And negative 0.5 is the deviation that goes with the 3. And negative 1.5 is the deviation that goes with the 2. And then the last one is missing. So let me set it up like this. Okay, so the last one here is missing. And they're going to ask you to fill in this blank. So let's just put that in here. Let's say, so what is the missing deviation? Now, there's a couple of ways that you can do this, but what you really don't need to worry about is the fact that you don't have the mean. One of the simplest ways to do this is to realize that when you sum up your deviation, so when you sum this entire column, the sum of deviations always comes out to be 0. So if I have a look at what happened so far when I sum these or add these up, I've got negative 1.5 and then taken away another 0.5, so I'm down to negative 2 now. Take away another 1.5, so now I'm down to negative 3.5. This one has to be positive 3.5 in order to make the entire column sum up to 0. So that would be my answer. Another way to do this is to have a look at one of these deviations. Let's look at the first one. Negative 1.5. What does that mean? Well, a deviation tells you how far x is from the mean. So the negative tells me that the 2 is below the mean. How much is it below the mean? It's below by 1.5. So if a 2 is 1.5 below the mean must be equals to 2 plus 1.5, 3.5. So if I wanted to find out how far is 7 from the mean, well, how far is 7 from 3.5? It's 3.5 above the mean. So if I took 3.5 and I add 3.5, oops, that's where I would get 7. You could take away any of these and figure it out again quickly based on that idea, or based on the idea that the entire column has to add up to 0. I think the easiest way to do this is to remember that as long as you're missing only one of the values, you can work out what's missing because it has to add up to 0. The sum of your deviations always adds to 0.